Welcome to a short presentation on purchase process in ERPNext. This video is brought to you by 3QSPACE. 3QSPACE is a digital transformation company. We help enterprises in the small and medium segment, and we work with them in both consultancy and implementation. So let's have a quick look at the points that we are going to cover in this video. So we will be outlining the entire purchase process, how efficiently it can be implemented in using ERPNext, the entire integration of all the ecosystem player, how suppliers can quickly integrate into the system and bring about efficiency. Also, the biggest advantage of getting multiple quotes from suppliers and on a single screen, comparing them. ERPNext also has a rich set of workflows and integrated system notifications available. So this will be explained in detail in the context of purchase process. The other aspect that will be dealt with in this video is about a web form, how a supplier registration can happen. Let's have a quick look at what ChatGPT illustrates from a purchase process customer journey. The key points are awareness, consideration, decision, purchase, and post-purchase. So if we map the functionalities available in ERPNext with respect to these points, we have in the awareness category the vendor registration and mapping of the item to a specific vendor or multiple vendors. When any company is considering a purchase, we can utilize the concept of material request and request for quotation. And in the case of decision making, there is a supplier quotation that is received from multiple supplier. Then based on the decision taken here, the companies can go with the purchase process in terms of purchase order, purchase receipt, and purchase invoicing. So this slide brings about the key aspects of the purchase process. On the top, we can see that basically the purchase process is driven by supplier registration and an active interaction from multiple suppliers through the supplier portal. Then as a workflow internally in the system, we have material request and related request for quotation through the supplier portal, receiving multiple supplier quotation, comparing them and going ahead with the purchase process. So the first step in terms of going ahead with an implementation would be to start with a process diagram. Figma is a tool we normally use to draw out different swim lane diagrams, and each of the lane represent a role. And we can see the states are mapped by blocks, and the arrows indicate the events that trigger this state transition. So typically in an organization, purchase request is raised by a line manager. They are then approved or rejected or change requested by the department manager. Then finally, on department manager's request and approval, the purchase manager finally approves the material request. And as part of the workflow, we have different email and system notification triggers. So the next would be in the flow is a request for quotation, where the purchase executive on receiving a material request or one or multiple material request, raises a request for quotation, and on approval of the purchase manager, this request for quotation is sent across to different suppliers through email. So once the multiple suppliers who have been requested for the quotation, they all input their details with the help of the supplier portal. Inside the organization, the key driver of this process is the purchase executive, ideally. And once the different supplier quotations are received, the respective line manager is given the first approval flow, where they can validate if all their specific requirements are met in the quotation from the suppliers. Subsequently, the finance executive verifies different pricing aspects and forward to the purchase manager. Here, the purchase manager can ideally accept one of the quotation, so based on the recommendation from the line manager, and his decision based on the pricing, and reject the rest of the quotation. And this approved quotation need to be verified by or approved by the finance manager. So this way we can, on a request, specific supplier quotation is selected. And from here, the purchase process in terms of purchase order, purchase receipt, and purchase invoice can be initiated. So in the ERPNext, we have a web form integration for the supplier registration. So supplier registration through the portal can provide all the details with respect to their contact and with respect to the specific domain of their service offering, and submit the details. And from the back end, the purchase team can verify it and approve this. On approval from the purchase department, specific user ID is created for this particular supplier in the supplier portal, using which multiple requests for quotations can be applied by through this supplier. So let's quickly have a look at typical supplier registration through the supplier portal. So this is the web form, which can be used by the supplier to update all the details from email, address, and their contact detail, their category of service offering. And on submission of this form, the backend supplier team will approve this registration process. On successful approval, an email is received by the supplier where a user account is created, and the supplier can go ahead and set or reset their password for further operation into the supplier portal. So let's have once the supplier registration is done, and then ideally a request is received within the company. Say typically this is how a line manager or any user will raise a material request. They will give the specified date by which they are looking for the material to arrive. They will mention the particular warehouse or the location where this material has to be received, and specify the item, and then go ahead with the approval process. Send it to the department manager for the approval. And the department manager in their login can approve or reject. And subsequently, the purchase manager using their login can approve or reject. Once the approval is done, then we see that we go further into the process uh, uh, of request for quotation, where the purchase executive will go ahead and specify a list of suppliers who can ideally supply this request. And the list of suppliers are entered in the request for quotation. And automatically you will see that their contact and emails are pulled from the system. And so that the on submission of this particular form, the emails will be sent to all the suppliers, and the required details can be filled up by the supplier. So this is the process of initiating a purchase request. Hmm. Then have a quick look at how different suppliers are registering or updating their request for quotation. They log in into the supplier portal, and as soon as they log in, they will see the list of requests for quotation that are available. So on clicking that, they will see this particular request that has arrived, and the supplier can specify the rates for this. If multiple items are there, then they can specify the rate for multiple item. So you can see now the supplier quotation is created. A similar way, we can also see that and another supplier is updating the rates for the same request for quotation. And multiple suppliers can do for multiple item based on what is requested from different suppliers. So after this, the purchase team can compare the different quotations that are received from the suppliers. So we have a good report where the comparison is facilitated, and a decision can be taken based on the quality, the terms and conditions, and most importantly, the pricing. So once the supplier has submitted the quotations, and the verification is a process where multiple stakeholders in the company are involved. Ideally, the purchase executive first forward the same to a line manager, and the line manager basically they can analyze various quotations that are received from multiple supplier, and then they can specify that say for example the whether the terms and conditions or the technical specification of this particular quotation is okay. That is what the important validation that will be required from the line manager, so that the further down the purchase manager can go ahead and compare the price, and depending upon other parameters such as terms and conditions or payment terms and conditions, they can award a contract to a particular supplier. So this process is very extensively carried out in terms of the supplier quotation. And if the complexity or the number of items are more, the process will be little more exhaustive internally. But the flow is fixed where finance, line manager, uh, the purchase manager, everyone can get involved and participate in the workflow and decide on a particular supplier quotation selected as um, to be purchased, and from there on we can raise a purchase order, as you see, and continue in the purchase process. So I hope this presentation gave a quick overview on the purchase process, how it can be implemented. So the typical aspects that are covered are how multiple suppliers can be involved in a purchase, how quickly they can be integrated into the system using the supplier portal, and the supplier quotation comparison, and then carrying ahead with the further purchase process confirmation. So at 3QSPACE, we are in the business of providing digital transformation consultancy as well as implementation. And you will hear from us with more video on different aspects of digital transformation, be it in the manufacturing or in the distribution of company. Thank you.